Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this one I'm creating the first out of the final 3 presets that I'm gonna upload inside the Google Drive folder that currently contains 47 free presets, and you can find the link to that below in the description box. 2 weeks ago I gave you the choice inside my community YouTube page. There was a poll and you could choose between the US Deluxe Normal, which is the Fender Deluxe Reverb, and the US Princess, which is the Fender Princeton Reverb. And luckily for me, you chose the US Deluxe Normal, which is the Fender Deluxe Reverb. I honestly wanted you to pick this one, so thanks to everyone who voted in the poll. The reason why I say that I wanted to do a preset based on this amp model is because I think that I already made the US Princess sound pretty good in 2 or 3 presets that I already uploaded. But I don't think that was necessarily the case with the US Deluxe Normal. So final 3 presets. This is preset number 48 out of 50. I'm gonna build it from scratch and it's gonna be based on the US Deluxe Normal amp. So let's get into it. Okay, I'm starting from the new preset position obviously, and the first thing that I'm gonna change is the amp, and we're looking for the US Deluxe Normal, which is right here. Currently all the controls are pretty much at noon except for the master volume, and we have the default cabinet. Now this is the place where I want to start actually. Do I want the 1x12 US Deluxe? Honestly, I think I do. I don't want to go with a bigger cabinet because this might just be me, but I think that the Princeton sounds really good through a small cabinet, and I believe that the US Deluxe Normal or the Fender Deluxe Reverb will probably be quite similar. But the one thing that I am gonna change is the mic. I don't like the dark sound of the 160 ribbon, so I'm gonna immediately choose the 57 dynamic, and I'm gonna add a bunch of early reflections. So a random number, 47% of early reflections. Another thing that I'm gonna add before we start playing is actually a reverb. And I'm gonna choose the 63 spring reverb. I would normally pick the hot springs, but that's too DSP intensive. The 63 spring is also DSP intensive, but I want to try it. So let's dial in a bit bigger pre-delay. So let's say 33 milliseconds. And let's open up the high end just a bit and leave the mix around 35%. And the decay at 5 seems fine. So with just the default settings, so the amp, the cabinet with the, actually let's save this preset right now. So it's Fender Deluxe Reverb. I'm gonna quickly check my levels inside my DAW. Okay, I'm gonna bring back the amount of, actually I'm gonna bring back the decay just a bit and the mix just a bit because the sound is a bit too wet for now. Okay, so let's start tweaking the amp block. So I'm just gonna play a few chords to see where we're at now. So honestly, that already sounds pretty good, but I'm gonna up the bass just a bit. Actually, quite a lot. I'm gonna up it up to 8. I'm gonna leave the mids where they are, and I'm gonna bump up the treble control by just 1, so from 5 to 6. I leave the present control where it's at. I don't feel that this amp is saturating too much, but I will add some extra pedals in front of it, so I'm gonna bring down the sag just a tiny little bit, and I'm gonna bring down the bias down to 4 as well. So is that a nice clean sound? This is on my neck pickup. Let's try the other options. Finally, the bridge is also a single coil, so it's not the full humbucker. So I think that this feels like a nice clean. It's not overly saturated. It does start to break up just a little bit if you hit it harder. So it's not perfectly clean, and that's just the way I like it, I guess. Now the next thing that I want to add is, I don't know, probably a delay unit. So let's pick something simple as a simple delay. Let's leave the note sync at quarter notes feedback. I'm gonna lower it down just a bit, as well as the mix. I'm gonna leave the scale all the way up to 100, so we are getting pure quarter notes. There's too much feedback. Let's bring up the mix. So one thing that I probably never mentioned in all 50 presets that I did, actually this is the 48, that all my delays are note synced. So this quarter note is based on this tempo you see in the top right corner, the 120 BPM. So these are quarter notes of a 120 BPM. If we make this a bit faster, make it 160, so the notes will be, of course, shorter because the BPM is larger. Now, the one thing that I want to add, of course, is a tube screamer, because nothing will pair up better with a Fender amp than a tube screamer. I think you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I think that tube screamer is the way to go for Fender amps. If you saw any of my presets before, you probably saw a situation where I used the screamer just as a booster, so the gain was primarily set at 0, and then I would change the tone, and the level was all the way up to 10. This time I'm not gonna do such thing. I'm gonna up the gain up to 3.5. I'm probably gonna bring down the tone just a bit and the level just a bit. Currently I'm gonna turn off the delay and see what kind of sound are we getting with this tube screamer, and its gain set at 3.3. Honestly, I want a bit more gain. 4.2 is the magic number. I don't know, to me that sounds like a pretty decent overdriven Fender amp. So there's room for one more block, and I'm wondering what the next block should be. I'm guessing it's gonna be the tremolo. So let's check out this tremolo block. I turn off the screamer, I turn off the delay, so we have the amp, the cabinet going into the tremolo, going into the reverb. Not only does the tremolo out of pain change the tone of the sound, it also changes its level. And I think I set this user default to be at 0.8, but I'm gonna bring it up to 2 dB because I feel that the loss was bigger than 0.8 dB. Let's bring up the intensity just a bit. Just a bit. I'm gonna bring the level even more, up to 3 dB. Now, if we try to combine a tremolo with a delay, we get something like this. So honestly, that's not something I would use together, this tremolo together with this delay. I would probably use one or the other because this kind of gets messy a bit. And it's probably due to the fact that I'm not playing in time, I'm not paying attention to what the BPM is, and it will probably sound much better in your hands. So I guess this is it. I'm not gonna make any snapshots out of this preset. I'm gonna leave it in so-called stompbox mode, so you can turn off or on any of the blocks you want as you wish. The reason why I won't do snapshots is because they kind of complicate the whole thing, don't they? So for the clean sound, you can opt for the amp, the cabinet, and the reverb block. I suppose that's more than enough for a decent clean sound. And if you want to make it sing a little bit, so this overdriven sound is actually sounding really nice to me. And of course you have your options for 2 different type of effects. So the tremolo is also time synced. You can see that I went with an 8 note and it's synced to tempo. So you can of course change the note value and you can change it to your own tempo. You have the simple delay and you have the 63 spring reverb. And the final thing that I'm gonna utilize is the high and low cut controls, which in my case will do very little to nothing, because when I open my global EQ, you will see that I have a high cut set at 6.9K and the low cut is very moderately set at 60 Hz just to prevent any subs. And this was left from when I had pedals after my pod in the FX loop and I didn't want low-end build-up coming from reverb, delay, and modulation effects. So your mileage may vary. You may as well copy these settings if you have a similar type of guitar, because they seem to work quite well for me. But if you're not using the global EQ, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna set the high cut at 8K and the low cut at 85 Hertz, and you should get a sound that's something like this. So there's basically no difference from the sound you heard before, because the global EQ, when it comes to the signal chain path, comes after everything. So it comes after all this, and the global EQ is the last thing before the main outs. So just as a precaution, as I said, I'm gonna leave this low cut at 85 Hertz and the high cut at 8K. So I guess that's it. This is free preset 48 out of 50. As soon as I upload this video, I will put up another poll, which will of course determine what will the 49th preset be. And trust me, the choice will be very, very hard, because there will be only 2 amps to pick from. So thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, you can click the subscribe button. You can like this video if you like this video. And I'll see you all soon. Addio.